I went to the wedding of a younger colleague from work. During the event, the bride insulted me, saying people with low education and who are poor should stop associating with my husband. She looked down on me because I had dropped out of school. Instead of stopping her, my colleague, the groom, joined in mocking me. Right then and there, I decided to cut them out of my life. I was determined to make them regret ever judging people based on their education. My name is Gwin, and I'm 32 years old. I grew up in an average family, not rich, but not poor either. I'm the only child of working parents. While most of my classmates were thinking about high school, I was searching for a job. Both of my parents are college graduates, but I wanted to start working as soon as possible. At first, they didn't understand, but they eventually supported me, saying it's my life to live how I choose. I first worked as a factory laborer in my hometown, then switched to a painting contractor role as a site supervisor. Now, I've been working for a big machinery company for 7 years, managing the service department. I visit clients to install, repair, and maintain machinery. Today, as I drive towards the freeway in my company car, my work phone rings. I see the company's name on the screen, and my mood sinks. Not again. I pull over and call back immediately. It's a complaint from a client. I'm really sorry. I'll be there right away, I say, even bowing my head apologetically, even though they can see me. Now I have to change my plans to deal with this complaint first. It's going to be a long day. After 7 p.m., I return to the office and see Theodore, my junior colleague from the service department, chatting happily with a sales colleague. I'm back, I say. Noticing me, Theodore quickly heads back to his seat and starts working on his computer. Our office has a small team, and we're supervised by an area manager. In the service department, it's just me and Theodore, who's 2 years younger than me. Hey Theodore, got a minute? I ask. What is it? He replies, sounding irritated. I got a complaint from one of your clients this morning. I went to fix it myself, but tomorrow we both need to go apologize. Why did you leave it unattended for 2 days? I had plans both days. That CEO is always bossing me around. Anyway, maybe they should rethink how they treat me. As usual, all Theodore does is make excuses and complain about the client. I'm reporting this to the area manager. I tell him I had to step in and fix a client's issue, and of course, I need to report it. But Theodore, without any guilt, just snorts and says, so you're reporting me again? Just because you're jealous of my education, you exaggerated things in your reports. He thinks that because I'm a college dropout, I'm jealous of him, even though I graduated from a prestigious university. Theodore used to be polite, humble, and a great junior colleague, but once he found out I didn't finish college, his attitude completely changed. I wouldn't mind if he was good at his job, but there are too many complaints from his clients, and it's becoming a real headache. The next day, we both go to the client to apologize. The president of the company greets us angrily and says, "What are you doing here now? Your job is to fix this." He's aggressive with his words, but that's not unusual in industrial settings. I'm used to it. But Theodore, who has no field experience, just stands there in silence. After I calm down the client and talk about how we can improve things in the future, Theodore finally mutters a soft "I'm sorry." I thought Theodore would feel bad about the situation on our way back, but I was wrong. Instead of showing remorse, he says, "Why are field workers so uncivilized?" He starts criticizing the client, saying that CEO pretty much shows off his lack of education with the way he talks. I was embarrassed to hear him speak like that. Maybe you should reflect on your word. You're the one who made the client that angry, I tell him, but my words fall on deaf ears. You're just out of touch because you work in these environments, he replies. I tell him, even so, if you're going to stay in this line of work, you have to get used to it. But Theodore just laughs and says, "What are you talking about? I only took this job to learn some mechanical skills. I'm not planning on sticking around." Typically, people like Theodore would spend 2 years in the service department before moving on to sales, but he's been stuck here for 3 years. Nobody's going to promote a guy with so many complaints to a sales position. Theodore genuinely thinks that all the bad reports are because I'm jealous of him. If that's the case, it just gives him more reason to improve at his service job and show some sincerity to the client. But with his terrible attitude, there's no sincerity to speak of. It wouldn't bother me as much if he was on the same professional level as I am. I couldn't bring myself to say another word to Theodore. One day, I had a business trip to set up some machinery, but the test run didn't go as planned because of some glitches, so I had to stay overnight to fix it. The next day, we had limited staff at the branch, and when major tasks came up, other local branches would help out. While I was looking for a place to eat near the hotel, someone called out to me, "Hey, what are you up to?" Turning around, I saw Theodore, arm in arm with a woman. "Oh hey, Theodore, good evening." I greeted the woman beside him and offered a handshake, which she accepted without saying a word. "This is my girlfriend, Selena. She's from around here." I felt like I had seen her somewhere before, but I didn't think much of it. Theodore then invited me to dinner, and I accepted. After we ordered, Theodore started bragging, saying, "Actually, we just got engaged. She graduated from the same college as me, and her family is quite wealthy locally. Definitely on a fast track to success." That explained why he invited me to dinner. Theodore wanted to show off his fiancée, while Selena barely acknowledged me. She didn't make eye contact and only nodded occasionally at Theodore during dinner. The meal ended with him dominating the conversation. When it was time to leave, he excused himself to go to the restroom, leaving me alone with Selena. She broke the silence by saying, "I've heard quite a bit about you from Theodore." Her eyes were locked onto mine, and I could sense a certain coldness in her tone. It was clear that Theodore had been badmouthing me. "Do you think your managerial role is a big deal just because you've been at the company a few years longer?" she asked. "Could you please stop blocking Theodore's career? The position of manager is something anyone can achieve through years of service and performance evaluations. Our direct boss is the area manager for Theodore, and I'm just a senior colleague," I replied, trying to clarify without arguing. Deciding it wasn't worth it to fight, I let it go. When Theodore returned, he avoided eye contact, acting as if nothing had happened. As I was leaving, I asked him about work for the next day, and he mentioned he'd be helping out at his branch. Something felt off, but I didn't say anything since Selena was there. The next day, I went to troubleshoot a test run as planned, but Theodore never showed up. I felt uneasy, so I discreetly consulted the area manager to look into Theodore's business trip application. It turned out that on the day I met Theodore and his girlfriend, they were supposed to be on a business trip that involved an overnight stay. This was clearly a false claim. The area manager decided to handle the situation, so I left it to them. Sometime later, the date for Theodore and Selena's wedding was set, and I wasn't invited. I felt relieved about that. However, a week before the ceremony, the area manager asked me to attend in their place. They were supposed to give the main speech but couldn't make it, so they asked me to do it instead. I initially said no when the area manager asked me to speak at Theodore's wedding, but I agreed when they mentioned they would be late. On the wedding day, I arrived early and ran into Theodore and his girlfriend. They looked surprised to see me. Theodore said, "You know, my elite friends and I all have degrees from prestigious universities and work at top companies. I didn't think a dropout like you would fit in, so we didn't invite you." I replied, "I was asked to speak on behalf of the area manager, who will be late. Once they arrive, I will leave." The color drained from their faces. Theodore said, "Are you trying to embarrass me by having a dropout give a speech? If the area manager can't make it, then there's no need for a speech. Leave now." His girlfriend added, "Cut ties with my husband. You're just an uneducated loser." They laughed and walked into the waiting room, leaving me stunned. I felt a surge of anger and my whole body started trembling. If they wanted to cut ties, then fine. I stayed hidden and waited for my turn to speak. Finally, it was my turn. I took a deep breath and stepped up to the mic, even though Theodore and his girlfriend were glaring at me, trying to make me leave. I started my speech with, "Congratulations on your wedding. If you thought I would stick to the usual pleasantries, you're mistaken. Theodore isn't exactly impressive in his job, but since this is a celebratory occasion, I'll try to give him high praise. Theodore, you're exceptional at collecting customer complaints at work. Your unrepentant and arrogant behavior, always blaming our clients, really shows your thick skin. I'm always impressed. Suddenly, Theodore's girlfriend stood up, clearly angry, and shouted, "Stop it! You're supposed to cut ties with Theodore and quit bullying him." The room began to buzz with chatter, but I continued with my speech, saying, "All I can say is that Theodore is quite a trickster. He's been lying about going on business trips to spend time with her and pretending to get expenses for it. That's a bold move and clear embezzlement." "Cut it out. You're making this up," Theodore yelled, his face turning red as he walked toward me. His girlfriend stood up and screamed, "What's your evidence for all of this? Are you insane?" The room fell into chaos, and the MC nervously asked me to stop. I thought maybe that was the end of it. Suddenly, the door swung open with a bang. The area manager and the president of the client company walked in, making the room go silent. The girlfriend turned pale when she saw the president heading straight for the bride and groom's table. "So, you lied about wanting to quit your job to marry me?" the president asked. It turned out that she had been working as a hostess at a club. I recognized her because I had heard that she was supposed to marry someone. I had contacted the area manager to bring the president after realizing who she really was. "I lent you money to quit your job and pay off your debts, and then you disappeared and planned to marry someone else," I said. She couldn't come up with any excuses when faced with the calm president. Even Theodore didn't know she worked at the hostess club. He stormed back to her and demanded, "What is going on?" She snapped back, "You act all elite, but you're a no-good criminal. That dropout is just jealous of me. It's all lies." The area manager stepped in front of the shouting Theodore and said, "We have evidence of your actions, and we'll be reporting this to headquarters. You'll be suspended until a decision is made." Theodore's face went pale as he realized the seriousness of the situation. The president said to her, "From now on, we'll be speaking through lawyers." But once the fine woman broke down in tears, the MC wisely suspended the ceremony, and the guests were asked to leave. I left the scene with the area manager and the president. Rumor has it that Theodore and the woman had planned to get their marriage certificate right after the ceremony, but now that's off. Both families are blaming each other and fighting over the wedding costs. Theodore was fired for misconduct, and they're figuring out how much he embezzled so he can pay it back. The only downside is that the area manager also got a pay cut for not supervising his staff properly. Theodore had scheduled his fake business trips to match days when important tasks, like machine installations, were happening, and the area manager had approved those trips. As for the woman, she's facing fraud charges from the CEO for her fake marriage and will likely be stuck in court for a while. I've completely cut ties with Theodore and haven't spoken to him since that day. As for me, I'm just going to keep living my life with my head held high.